Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the webinar for the draft local area plan for the Loughrea draft plan on public display currently. This evening, we're just going to do a quick presentation with respect to the plan, and then we're also going to have some questions and answer session following that, should anybody wish to ask any questions, and we will try to answer those queries and questions thereafter. The plan is on public display up to the 15th of January 2024 with a number of ways of making your submissions through consult.ie in our website, through email at forwardplanning@galwaycoco.ie, and also through written submission to Galway County Council Forward Planning section. This evening, I'm going to hand you over to our director, Liam Hanrahan, who is going to just say a few opening introductory words, followed by a presentation from our senior executive planner, Brendan Dunn. Thank you very much.
Hi, everybody, and good evening. And thanks very much to Valerie for setting the context there, and for Brendan and Anne and the rest of the staff for participating this evening. I suppose, look, the stage we're at, and just to welcome the members of the public who've taken their time to join us today. It's very important, I suppose, that we take our opportunity to engage here fully in terms of consultation and to ask questions and have a good discussion around what people are looking for clarification on, and indeed what people would like to discuss in terms of making submissions and in terms of where they see things going in terms of the local area plan. We have a number of plans to do under this county development plan, Ballinasloe and Tuam having been completed, Athenry, Loughrea being undergone, and Gort to be done early next year. So look, you're very welcome to this evening. Again, you know, I suspect we'll have more people joining in over the course of the evening. Keep an eye on our Consult website in terms of progress. And I think it again, as I said, we value your contribution and hope that people do make submissions and do participate over the next couple of months as we finalize this. So thanks very much, and over to Valerie and Brendan.
Thanks very much, Liam. And I'm going to hand you over to our Senior Executive Planner, Brendan Dunn, who's going to do a short presentation for us on it, followed by questions and answers query session. If anybody wishes to ask a question, you can do so in the chat provision, and we will be able to take those questions and answer them thereafter the presentation. Thank you very much, and I'll hand you over to Brendan now. Thank you.
Thanks, Valerie, and thanks, Liam, for the introductory comments. So yeah, essentially, this is a webinar to follow on from our public session, a drop-in session last Tuesday in the Loughrea Spa Hotel. So essentially, I'll just give a very brief overview of the particulars of the Loughrea local area plan, and we welcome any questions, as Valerie and Liam have pointed out. So we're in the 6-week period for the public display, and the Loughrea local area plan will come off display on the 15th of January. And essentially, now is the time to start preparing your submissions and consider exactly what you require in the what you would like to see included in the Loughrea local area plan, from some zonings changes to specific policies and objectives, and to transport initiatives that you would like to see in the plan. So it is a statutory process where we're confined and we have to adhere to the statutory deadlines. So we are within the 6 weeks period, and we add on the extra number of days during the Christmas period. So it brings it up to the 15th of January. And we are getting submissions in as we speak on the Consult portal and on the Forward Planning portal. How can the public get involved? And as I've outlined, you can visit the consult.galway.ie this webinar, and as I have alluded to, the drop-in session last Tuesday was heavily attended. There was over in excess of 200 people in attendance on that, so we got a lot of feedback on it, got a lot of comments, and we look forward to receiving all of those submissions in. You can view our copy of the local area plan at our offices and in the library, and you can contact us by phone or email, or make a submission and observation. It is very important that you would do that. the settlement hierarchy, where Loughrea fits within the county development plan, as Liam alluded to, the county development plan was adopted last year. The self-sustaining town is Loughrea, and the description under that is a self-sustaining town with high levels of population growth and limited employment base, which are reliant on other areas for employment and or services in terms of a catch-up as well investment to become more sustaining. So Loughrea has an important function to play within the settlement hierarchy, and is one of the second last towns to have a local area plan prepared under the new county development plan. The preparation of the new local area plan, as we've outlined, the county development plan was adopted last year. The previous local area plan was 2012 to 22. There was a deferral of notice and it was extended to the 24th of July 22. But we're also mindful that we need, for towns like Loughrea to have a local area plan. But obviously the county development plan was adopted first, and then it was a sequence of local area plans to be prepared. So we're on track to having, for the first time in a number of years in Galway County Council, to have all of our local area plans prepared under the county development plan, and also to have a number of settlement plans in the county development plan. So there's a significant amount of zonings in the county identified for a number of uses, not just residential, but also commercial and retail. So we published the draft local area plan now, and public consultation is 6 weeks with an extra few days at Christmas added. So that brings it up to the 15th of January. We will prepare, once the submissions come in and observations come in from the members of the public and prescribed authorities, the forward planning section will prepare the chief executive's report, and we will present that to the elected members within 6 weeks of the closing date of the submission. So the 15th of January, add on 6 weeks. That will be the time frame for us to prepare the report and then issue it to the elected members. We expect the adoption of the LAP will be in the Q2, maybe Q3 of 24, depending on the number of submissions and if subsequent amendments are made by the elected members. So the context of the local area plan, it fits within the national planning framework, within the regional spatial economic strategy and the Galway County Development Plan. And then it resulted in the Loughrea local area plan. So just for the attendees today, the national planning framework is being reviewed at the moment in light of the census results and a number of other parameters externally to Galway County Council. Once that national planning framework is reviewed, that will feed into a revised allocation and examination of the regional spatial economic strategy. So that may result in a number of changes to the development plan and also local area plans. But it's very important, first and foremost, to have a local area plan prepared within the context of the Galway County Development Plan 22-28, and then build on that. Galway County Council won't be found wanting for delivery, if there's revised figures, that we will update the revised figures and we will follow on that guidelines. So the National Development Plan was in 2018 and 27. There's a number of parameters and a number of plans and policies that we have to deal with, and the design standards for new apartments. So all of these guidelines and strategies fit within within the county development plan, and then with the preparation of the local area plans. The format of the local area plan is section 1 is the written statement including narrative, supporting policies and objectives. Section 2 is the land use zoning maps and environmental reports, and section 3 is your local transport plan. So section 2 contains the land use zoning map, and based on the discussions last week at the public meeting, there was a lot of discussion around the zoning maps, but also equally there was a lot of discussions around the policy and objectives in volume 1, and which was very good to see. So we would expect submissions in on that, and also under section 3, which is the local transport plan. And I suppose it will be of merit to me to identify that the local transport plan is a new, I suppose, initiative within the National Transport Authority to prepare local transport plans with a number of local area plans. And in Galway, all of our local area plans to date have been accompanied with a local transport plan, which will be high level, I suppose, strategic issue identification of routes and improvements to the local network, be it cycling or connectivity between different areas within the town. And then that will be, we work in very close collaboration with our road section. So once the local area plan is adopted and the local transport plan, The measures identified in the local transport plan will then be worked on and examined fully with our road section and operations. But it's very important to state that just with the measures identified, they will still have to go through a formal process, possibly with Part 8, in terms of any improvements to the road network if they require planning permission. So that's very important to identify, that just because the measures are shown, there's, members of the public will still have a further input into those, I suppose, management issues. So as we've said, the Galway County Development Plan was adopted in May and it came into effect in June. Then, as I said, the local area plans were prepared. So Chapter 2 of the core strategy has identified the population. And that's what I was just alluding to in relation to the NPF and the RCS. These figures are given to us by national government and by the Department of Planning. So therefore, and as a result, we have to allocate the percentage across all of our settlements in the county. So that's why the core strategy has been identified and a figure has been given for Loughrea, which then equals to the quantum of lands required. So all of that is in line with the core strategy of the county development plan. But as we have already stated, the census have come out subsequently, but those figures haven't been worked through yet with the department. You can see it there, the core strategy. Loughrea is down there in the area identified in red in terms of the 2016 population, then the population allocation here, and the housing allocation. And we had to identify a percentage to build on greenfield sites and brownfield sites. So the Loughrea local area plan, as published, fits within the county development plan and the core strategy, which we're obliged to do that. The strategic aims of Loughrea, there's a number of them there that have identified, I suppose, across the range, not from residential, but also community and town centre focus, which is extremely important to analyse and to include in a local area plan. The opportunities and challenges, I suppose, is a number of issues there in terms of population growth, the economic activity and transport. And, the census results, as I said, have been recently identified and they're working through, but we do see that there is a population growth in Loughrea, and as a result then there's a number of economic initiatives and growth, and the town can develop further, and Galway County Council in the forward planning section have identified that and identified the prospect for Loughrea to grow. This is one of the local transport plan emerging options, and I suppose it's a number of routes identified with tables including the local transport plan. But as I have outlined, these measures they will have to go through further examination, but they're there to be included now because with our zoning plan and with our zoning maps, just to kind of get the conversation going in terms of improvements in cycle footpath connectivity, in improvements in all of those infrastructure that's needed for a town such as Loughrea. We've just one of these slides because it came up on last Tuesday in Loughrea in terms of one of the routes and the different measures. So we just have it there on a screen here just to show it. And I suppose it just shows there's potential for one-way streets and the gain that could be achieved by pedestrianising along this route here at the courthouse, but also that there's alternative routes then to get down towards the town in Loughrea. So again, it's one of the measures that are identified, but again, this would have to go through a strenuous examination with our colleagues in the roads and operations section and the NTA as well. We have a number of opportunity sites identified in Loughrea, and I suppose these opportunity sites have evolved since the county development plan, where the zoning is still town centre underneath it, but it's an opportunity site. So if it was developed in the morning, it would make a huge difference to the town in Loughrea in terms of improvement and connectivity and accessibility and visual as well. So we've identified those opportunity sites, and I suppose there's a clear rationale and explanation for that in the local area plan. And as I said, there's one there on the Galway Road, and the opportunity to develop the prime vacant lands for retail offices, which with a mix of upper floor residential compatible with town centre locations. So we often get queries going, well, what does the opportunity site mean? The zoning is still underneath it, it's still zoned town centre, but it's just given an extra credence in our local area plan and in the policy objectives. Again, that's another opportunity site in Moore Street here in terms of developing lands for residential and town centre. Opportunity site 3 is Dunkellen Street. Again, it's to examine the vacant lands and to provide retail offices services. So they're key sites within Loughrea, and if they were developed, it would I suppose significantly improve the aspect within Loughrea. And again, opportunity site 4 and 5. So we have 5 opportunity sites. So these are this is the land use zoning, and residential infill and tourism are 2 new zonings that we've introduced for Loughrea. Residential infill is your gap sites. Previously, there were residential phase 1, but we felt it was beneficial to include this as in the county development plan, residential infill for 1 to 2 residential units, gap sites you will be looking at. And it has seen significant interest in it in a number of previous local area in a number of local area plans that have just gone through, and the county development plan settlements as well. Tourism, again, where Loughrea is located, that has significant tourism potential. So we have identified lands for tourism, and to build on that and build on the strengths that Loughrea have from a tourism perspective. This is the zoning map of Loughrea, and I suppose essentially we have to keep within the core strategy that we've covered off there in the county development plan. There, we often get asked, well, where do you come up with the figures? And that is where the figures come up from, the county development plan, and the lands there outlined in red and yellow. A red border and the yellow in between is the residential phase 1. And that's your 22.6 hectares. We have your residential infill that I just previously talked about there with the asterisks on the yellow background, town centre, community facilities. Yet, there's significant interest at the moment on a number of different proposals within Loughrea, and each one of them will be examined as part of the Chief Executive's report, and all submissions will be taken into account. But we're also mindful that we have to, and one of the slides showed it there, all of the national guidelines that we have to adhere to as well. So everything will be taken into consideration and examined in further detail once the submissions come in. This is the town centre. It's a more zoomed in location. Again, we're building on the strengths that Loughrea have and policies and objectives to deal with vacancy and dereliction. This is I suppose, the protected structures, the archaeological and built heritage and specific policy objectives for the town. Again, in tandem with the county development plan, there's policies and objectives to address those. This is the flooding map. I suppose in one way, Loughrea is benefited that it doesn't have extensive flooding, because similar to other towns within the county, but anywhere where there's a flood zone A and B, the lands have been zoned open space, recreation, amenity in accordance with the guidelines. But as I said, there's a number of pockets that have been identified, not substantial amounts of land. So that is one benefit for Loughrea. And we've also maximised the location of the lake as well with our previous zoning map there with policies and objectives. This is our infrastructure assessment for residential zone lands. So we had to examine all of those residential phase 1 lands in line with the infrastructure assessment that the NPF and the RCS has identified. And I suppose that is the table, the residential phase 1 and residential phase 2, where there's footpath connectivity, services, access to the wastewater, water, and I suppose public lighting as well. All of those parameters are taken into context, and where the lands themselves are located. Are they adjacent to existing residential lands? And that's where your colour comes in. I know it's a lot of text in it, but that's the general guise that we have to look at. If we identify residential phase 1 lands, they have to meet a number of parameters in terms of compact growth, access to services, and availability of services. So a complete examination of all lands are undertaken as part of the preparation of a local area plan, and this has resulted in this table being formulated. And again, we've done the same for employment lands, and again, employment lands have to be strategically located adjacent to residential lands, possibly to reduce down the amount of car journeys as well, which is central now to all local area plans being developed in terms of climate change and reduction of carbon emissions. So again, this all has to be examined. When the 2012 plan was prepared, there was very little reference to all of these new initiatives that have come on stream in the last number of years. So that's why we're in a different place in preparing these local area plans. Again, that's the same table on the infrastructure and assessment. It's located within footpath proximity. It has public lighting. It has access to the services, the wastewater and water. All of the lands we've identified in Loughrea would meet all of those criteria based on that analysis and based on where they're located. So that's why we have produced this table the way it's being produced. Again, to finally summarize, I suppose it's very important that the members of the public would engage with the local area plan process. It's a democratic process. The chief executive will prepare a chief executive's report, and then that will be issued to the elected members. The elected members then will consider it, and a subsequent workshop possibly and a municipal district meeting of the Loughrea Kinvara members will be held. And it's at that time then that either the draft plan will be adopted or amendments will be made, and those amendments will result in material alterations, and it'll only be the changes from the draft plan that will go out on public display. So again, it's very important for members of the public and community groups and interest groups out there to get in contact and to participate in this process. And based on the level of interest last week and even during the week with different phone calls, we're pleased with this level of interest for Loughrea. And again, we welcome any comments. And again, this is the forum for it, and we're available until the 15th of January to deal with any other further queries that anybody may have. So I'll hand you back to Valerie now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brendan, and thank you for that presentation. And hopefully it's been useful for all the participants on the webinar today. This webinar is being recorded, so it will be available for anybody to play back should they wish to do so. I may have said through the chat function, it's actually through the questions and answers function. If anybody wishes to make a question that we can hopefully try and deal with. At the moment, there's no questions in that facility, but if anybody wants to give a couple of minutes or so, they may have a number of issues they'd like to raise or perhaps some questions that they'd like to ask us, and we'd be happy to try to facilitate those. As Brendan has said, we had a public consultation, a walk-in public consultation between 2:30 and 7:30 on Tuesday, the 5th of December, and we had a huge turnout to that particular public consultation, which was excellent, and a lot of people are very engaged with respect to this plan, which is exactly what we would want, to be able to get people's feedback. It is everybody's plan, so the more feedback we can get either from the general public, interested groups, or our prescribed bodies and so on, the better. Everybody will have their representation that makes a submission. It will be synopsized in the chief executive's report. It will then be a chief executive's response to that submission, and then subsequently a recommendation, and the members will be able to see all of the submissions that people have made and also have the benefit of the chief executive's report. Once the members have received the chief executive's report, and within a number of days, we will have that posted on our website as well. So everybody will be able to look at the chief executive's report, look at the responses, and look at the recommendations that are being made for the members to consider. Just in terms of the opportunity sites, as Brendan has said, the opportunity sites are very important, and while they have the zoning underneath them as well, they just are areas around the town that maybe it would make particular improvement to public realm if those particular sites were developed and so on. So they provide for a kind of key sites around the town. And again, I know there was quite a lot of consultation. At the consultation, there was quite a lot of consultation and also quite a lot of questions around the local transport plan, and so Brendan had brought up a slide there that was of particular interest to people at that open walk-in section. So we would hope that that might give some clarity, and again it would be subject to further consultation down the line if there were to be amendments made and so on and so forth. So I'll just see if there's any questions there. If anybody has any questions to ask. I don't think we have anything at the moment in the questions and answers. So we will also just, Brenda was reminding me there that I should have said at the very start as well, the presentation will also be available along with the recording of this webinar. So people will be able to see that presentation and any questions that they might have on that. We're obviously here up to the 15th. Submissions can be made to the 15th of January. And we're obviously here to answer any queries that anybody might have with respect to it. So our website on consult.ie, you can make the submission through consult.ie, which is an online submission. You can make it through email to forwardplanning@galwaycoco.ie, or you can do it in writing to the forward planning section of galwaycoco.ie, and also to make sure that you have the Loughrea, draft Loughrea LAP just posted on it. When we receive those submissions, they will be uploaded onto the portal. So all of the submissions will be uploaded onto the portal. And just to remind people, if they do make their submission through the portal, it will be there, and there's no need to make it through email as well. But if they do make it through email, we raise it onto the portal within a number of days. Usually a lot of the submissions come towards the end of the period, and this year, obviously, in this particular plan, it'll fall on public display over Christmas. We are giving the benefit of the 9 to 10 days extra after Christmas, so that it's up to the 15th of January, and people can make their submissions there. And like I say, we're always available to answer anybody's queries or give any information that they require as a result of the public consultation. That's either online or that we've already undertaken or as part of this webinar as well. So if anybody has any questions, I don't see any questions currently. If anybody has any questions there, it seems to be quiet this evening. Just give another minute or so in the event that anybody wants to type in a question into the questions and answers section there. I think during the course of the public consultation, there was a number of issues that have arisen, and obviously there would probably be follow-up submissions on those issues and so on. So we welcome all submissions that people make, and each one of them will be gone through. Like I say, there'll be a synopsis done of them in the Chief Executive's report, a response, and then subsequently a Chief Executive's recommendation for the members to consider. And that will be given to the members 6 weeks following, as Brendan has said, and then there will be a meeting of the members of the Loughrea Municipal District to consider that Chief Executive's report. I think, yep, so I know that I think it's Councillor Geraldine Donoghue, she's thanking us for the presentation, so that's good. So hopefully it's been informative, and our director has also noted and thanking everybody for their attendance on the webinar as well. And we'll just give it a couple of more minutes to see if there's any further questions. Just to note as well, I suppose the LTP, as Brendan has said, the local transport plan is a relatively new position, and we're lucky in Galway that we have had a number of plans adopted already in terms of Ballinasloe, which has a local transport plan, Tuam has a local transport plan, and obviously Loughrea will also have the the transport plan as well, and any follow-ups we have. Athenry is currently at the stage where the Chief Executive's report on the material alterations have been delivered to the members for consideration early in the new year. So I'm not sure, I think Councillor Shane Curley has just given clarity to the public on what the process entails. So just thank you for his comment there. So again, from our perspective, I suppose the most important thing is that everybody's engaged and that any submissions come in as part of the public consultation, which will get all of its due consideration. And like I say, will be in the Chief Executive's report that will be delivered to the members. Just one, I suppose, additional thing, just to add again, and Brendan has already raised this, but just with respect to the population and so on, I know this was raised. The NPF is currently again under review in terms of the populations that would have come out of the 2022 census, and any amendments that would be made that would come from the department. Obviously, due consideration will be given to those into the future for all our LAPs and also our county plan, just to give clarity on that particular question as well. I know it may have arisen during the course of the public consultation in the Loughrea Hotel last Tuesday week. So I don't think we have any more questions there. Just give it maybe a couple of more minutes, because maybe some people may be late joining, and we'll just give it a couple more minutes. I don't know if there's anything there, Brendan, that you can add further.
No, everything is good to go in terms of the responses in the webinar. As Valerie said, the webinar and the presentations will be available on our website within the next number of days. So it'll be there for people to review and maybe to share as well if they so wish to share the presentation. Thank you.
Just one question coming in there. So just graphic outlining the steps in the process and dates associated with the circulation on GCC social media channels. So I suppose the question is just the dates for the steps in the process. Within this presentation that Brendan has given, the dates are so outlined, and like we've said, this presentation will be available to the members of the public along with this recording and so on and so forth. So all the dates that are there, closing dates for submissions the 15th of January at 4 p.m. 2024, and then the dates thereafter to 6 weeks to prepare the chief executive's report to be delivered to the members, and then subsequently the members have a number of weeks to consider that. Anything that does come out of that process then at the as a result of the members considering it, any material alterations to the draft plan will then go back on public display for a period of 4 weeks, and then a chief executive's report is prepared on those material alterations. Just to be clear, on the second part of the consultation, when it goes back on public display for 4 weeks, if there are any material alterations, comments can only be made on those material alterations at that point. So it's at this point really that everybody should engage with the draft and so on, and to make any comments with respect to the whole of the draft plan. Following the material alterations, chief executive's report, they go back to the members, and the members will consider duly and choose to adopt or make the plan. And the plan will then come into effect a number of weeks after the adoption by the members. So that's the process that's in place. There doesn't seem to be any further questions. And also just make the point that through our social media channels and so on and so forth, we will put up the dates, and we will run. There will also be coming towards the end of the period, we may have some local media also reportage in terms of local radio stations and so on for the closing date of submissions, just to remind people to make their submissions in time for the 15th of January with respect to the draft plan. So I think maybe that's all the questions. We could potentially wrap it up just to say thank you very much to everybody for attending this evening. Hopefully it's been informative. As Brendan has said, we will place the presentation on our website. We'll also be recording of this webinar on the website for anybody to listen back to. We're always available to take some queries and the submissions made by the 15th of January 2024. And I'd just like to thank our Director of Services, Liam Hanrahan, and Senior Executive Planner Brendan Dunn here, and our colleague here as well, and Power, for her assistance and great work on the plan, as well as the other members of the team as well, both technical and administrative. It's a very much a team effort, and we're very grateful for all the assistance that we do get. So thank you very much. I think after that we will close it off. Thank you.